This is your news source evening bulletin for today, Tuesday, the 23rd day of May in the year 2023. I'm Gordon Mosley reporting, and here's what we're tracking tonight. Local and international help continues to pour in for the families of the 19 children who perished in that deadly fire at the Mahdia Secondary School dorm, as well as for the survivors and the wider Mahdia community. Cuba and Barbados are the latest countries to offer help. Describing the Mahdi's tragedy as one of the hardest tasks of his presidency, President Irfan Ali today expressed the nation's gratitude to various countries and international organizations that have offered support to Guyana in the aftermath of the devastating fire at Mahdia. Addressing the opening ceremony of the International Labour Organization's meeting of labour ministers today in a sober tone, the president announced that a team of DNA experts from Barbados has already arrived in the country to assist with the DNA analysis. Most of the children who died in the blaze were burnt beyond recognition. The president also announced today that Cuba has offered specialized care for the survivors, and that could take place in Cuba should a need arise.
Cannot also not remember the generous offer of Cuba yesterday to give us full medical support in and out of Guyana and to be a host country for any medical needs in Cuba. It is in these times of sadness that a nation must gather strength, that a nation must gather faith and love, and understand that our collective responsibility is towards each other. And our collective purpose as a people, blessed in a land that we call home, is to support each other.
President Ali has pledged his government's full support for the families of the victims. He said his government will also make every possible intervention needed. 3 days of national mourning for the victims started yesterday.
I want to thank our international partners, the United States of America, PAHO, and all others who very readily offered full support in all that we need at this time. I would say that what we need at this time is your continued prayers and thoughts for the families and the communities.
CARICOM has also offered support for Guyana. More news coming up in just a moment.
It's been a long time coming. Overdue, some might say. But now that it's here, it will change life forever. And it is here to stay. The future is now. Transforming Guyana into the 21st century. Introducing GTT Fiber. Experience internet connectivity like never before. Speeds you deserve at prices you can afford from a name you can trust. Sign up today. GTT Fiber is here. GTT. Together, we rise faster.
Oh my lord. I just love to shop in this store. My customers, them gonna love all these things. So many different things in one place. Household items, electronics, toys, stationery, confectionery, exercise equipment, shoes and clothes for men, women and children, school things, costume, jewelry, perfume, makeup. Oh, look the makeup!
Giftland Office Max, Guyana's favorite department store.
Ignite! A new flavor of Sunshine Snacks Zumas made for the pepper lover in you. Caution! Look for the Ignite flames on your favorite packs of Sunshine Snacks and get ready to handle the heat.
Bust the flavors. we're full of flavors. Bust the flavors that me crave for. We're full of flavors. Tell your neighbors about the bust the flavors. Grab a bust the flavors. Yeah, thirst buster. Grab a buster. Bust the flavor, taste the savor. Bust the flavors. Bust the flavors.
Strong and solid in countries far and wide. New India Assurance, we're standing by your side. Golden service, half a century and more. New India Assurance, our policies are secure. From the heart of India, we serve these islands. The strength that you can trust, you're safe when you come to New India Assurance Company. Assurance when you need it most.
For your home, motor or business insurance, visit New India Guyana office, 58 Brickdam next to Star Computers. Telephone 2260-415-7. Comfortable parking available.
Let's tell you now that as many parents and teachers try to find the words to truly understand the tragedy at Mahdia, which left 19 students dead, Guyanese American psychologist Dr. Tricia Van Rossum believes it is important during the grieving process to also have frank and open discussions with children about the tragedy. Appearing on 94.1 FM's Hangout program this morning, Dr. Van Rossum explained that children should not be shielded from the discussions of the tragedy.
It's very important that we talk to them in a manner that they can understand. So whatever grade level they're in, explain what happened to them plainly and clearly in a way that they can understand. So talk to them, spend time with them. One good example is to share your own experience and your own feelings.
Dr. Van Rossum also said that while children might not have the words to express how they may be feeling about the situation, parents and teachers can explain to them their own feelings to get the children to open up more about how they are feeling about the tragedy and the impact it might be having on them.
For teachers, maybe an exercise that they can do is if they search for a feelings chart on the internet, and if they put that up and just say, let's talk about how we're feeling today. How are you feeling today? You don't give them the feelings, but you can also just show. A feelings chart has the faces and the images. They're kind of like emojis.
Yes.
And they can go through and pick and allow them to share. That can be a good exercise that teachers can do with them today, or even parents at home.
According to the psychologist, reading information about the tragedy and viewing its details on the news could be very traumatic for both adults and children. She said everyone is impacted, whether they were at the site or not. And she stated that as the crisis lingers, it is also important that parents and teachers stick to routines.
And so I know there may be a lot going on right now and the country's in mourning, people are distracted. But for kids, they need to continue to feel safe. When they hear things like this, they don't feel safe. And so the ways that adults can allow them to feel safe is to create a routine, stick to a structure, be available, allow them to share their emotions, and allow them to express themselves.
More than 20 children were pulled to safety from the fire, and the fire service has determined that based on initial investigations, the fire was maliciously set. It is suspected that the fire was set by a teenage girl of the school who was upset that her cell phone had been taken away by the caretaker for the dorm. Dr. Van Rossum said she believes parents need to also start talking to their children about the decisions that they make and the impact those decisions could have on others.
You don't get to that point of that type of anger or rage or that type of response without, you don't just wake up and do things like that.
Right.
Things like that happen because of years of holding things in, not being able to express yourself freely. So
today, schools across the country held moments of silence in memory of the lives lost at Mahdia. Some schools have allowed their students to write notes of support to the survivors, while others created support walls at their facilities to allow the children to leave messages of support. Dr. Tricia Van Rossum is a licensed clinical social worker in the U.S. who holds a PhD in counseling studies and a master's in social work. Opposition leader Aubrey Norton is calling for the Minister of Education Priya Manik Chan, the Minister of Health Dr. Frank Anthony, and the Minister of Public Works Juan Edgel to resign over the circumstances surrounding the death of those 19 children in the Mahdia dorm fire. The children found themselves trapped in the heavily grilled building as fire ripped through it on Sunday night. All of the doors to the facility were locked from the outside and could not be opened. During an early morning interview with Trinidad and Tobago CCN TV6, the opposition leader said the three ministers are equally responsible for the deaths of the young children, many of whom were indigenous.
In my opinion, there should be at least 3 resignations here. The Minister of Education, the Minister of Health, and the Minister of Public Works. It is the responsibility to protect our children was placed squarely at the feet of the government. This is a government-governed institution. And if there are no proper protocols, etc., then the tragedy that occurred was just waiting to happen.
While it is alleged that the fire was maliciously set by one of the students, Mr. Norton said there was a clear absence of fire prevention and other safety measures in place at the grilled building.
First of all, I think one has to look at the building code and to what extent the Ministry of Public Works is ensuring that in construction that you adhere to the building code. Now you have a dormitory where children would live in, and the information is that it was ill-equipped to be able to deal with the fire, the absence of fire extinguishers, no alarm systems. And then it is compounded by the fact that you grill this entire building up, and there was no mechanism in the case of any form of disaster for the children to get out. And so to me, that constitutes gross negligence on the part of the authorities.
He said the Ministry of Public Works failed to ensure that basic building codes were adhered to and fire prevention systems be in place. Norton said to compound the situation, after the survivors were evacuated out of the burning building, there were insufficient medical supplies to treat burn victims at the hospital in the area.
That again is a manifestation of not only negligence but incompetence on the part of the Ministry of Health.
But Mr. Norton said the government's response to the national tragedy was reasonable. He emphasized, however, that such an incident should have never taken place.
The government response has been one to mobilize the joint services, the aircraft, etc., to get persons out and to deal with the disaster itself. I would say that the government did respond in a reasonable way, but there should have been no need for such a response if we had put in place the necessary mechanisms and safeguards to ensure that something like that doesn't happen.
In an earlier interview with News Source on Monday, the opposition leader called for a comprehensive probe to be conducted into the fire and the circumstances that may have led to it. The Guyana Elections Commission has announced that members of the disciplined forces will cast their votes for the local elections on the 2nd of June. For the wider public, voting will take place on the 12th of June in the majority of the 80 local authority areas across the country. In a notice published on its Facebook page, the Elections Commission said the date was set in keeping with the Local Authorities Elections Act, which provides a procedure for voting by specified disciplined forces. Earlier in May, the Elections Commission indicated that there was no contest in 13 local authority areas comprising some 98 constituencies. Additionally, there will be no contest in an additional 193 constituencies spread across several local authority areas. As such, there will be no voting in those areas. Earlier, the Elections Commission granted approval for some 46 political parties, voluntary groups, and individuals to contest the upcoming local government elections.
Dolly.
Help me out with this thing, man. You just know everything. What's all this talk about local government election?
Local government refers to the mayor and councillors who manage the affairs of our towns, like Georgetown, and the chairman and councillors of the Neighborhood Democratic Council.
Oh, but why is that important to me?
Dolly, it is very important. Every day, local government officials make decisions that affects you, your family, and the community. They serve the people within the community in which they were elected.
Oh, Miss Anne, me not understand all them big words you use there. Tell me what local government does do.
All right, Dolly. Local government is responsible for maintaining and protecting public property, like our community centers and the playgrounds, for collecting the garbage, maintenance of the streets, cleaning of the drains and the carpets, and so much more.
Oh, I now understand. Thanks, Miss Anne.
You're welcome.
I'm gonna show off for me friends them why I will vote at the local government elections.
That's a good thing. Let's go.
Monday, June 12, 2023 is Local Government Elections Day. For further information, contact GCOM or visit the GCOM website at www.gcom.org.gy.
The Labor Department is spearheading an investigation into yet another workplace fatal accident. A Sophia laborer who has so far been identified only as Kevin lost his life this morning when a concrete beam at a construction site for the Buddy's apartment complex on Sheriff Street came crashing down on him. Emergency services were summoned to the scene as the man was pulled from beneath large pieces of the collapsed concrete beam. He was pronounced dead at the scene. One of his workmates said he was in the same area working with a now dead laborer moments before the beam came crashing down. In addition to the labor investigators, the Guyana Police Force is also conducting its own investigation. Chief Prison Officer Patrick Perry lost his life late on Monday night after crashing into a heap of sand that had been dumped on the roadway in the Melanie area on the east coast of Demerara. Police investigators have launched a probe. An investigation has revealed that around 11:55 last night, Perry was driving his motor car along the Melanie roadway when he lost control of the car while going around a bend in the roadway. The 36-year-old ended up slamming into a heap of sand which was at the side of the road. The impact resulted in the man's vehicle toppling over several times. He was flung out of the car and landed on the roadway. Persons in the area rushed to his side. Emergency services were summoned and the prison officer was declared dead at the scene. The prison director and a number of senior police officers visited the scene of the accident earlier this morning. Parents and relatives of at least 3 of the 19 victims of the Mahdia Dome fire made their way to the Memorial Gardens Funeral Home in Georgetown today and identified the bodies of their children. DNA tests are being done to identify some of the other remains. For Rihanna Jeffrey, who is the sister of the late Bibi Rita Jeffrey who died in the fire, it was a heart-wrenching moment for the families as they continue to grapple with the loss of their loved ones. Ms. Jeffrey told News Source that while the parents and relatives of 2 others who died, Belnisa Evans and Lorraine Evans, were able to identify their remains, her family was unable to possibly identify the remains of her sister.
Like I said, the DNA tests, we're just awaiting the results now. We were took to the memorial home to identify the bodies. So far, bodies of Belnisa Evans suspected to be. When we get the DNA, we would see whether it's her or not. Were identified by the parents, and body of Lorraine Evans was also identified by the relatives since her mother is hospitalized. And body of Bibi Rita Fiona Jeffrey was very difficult to identify because they were 2 identical face and same hair texture and so forth, but we are very hopeful out of the 2 that we see, it would be the remaining of Baby Jeffrey.
The young woman explained that while samples were taken from the parents of Belnisa Evans and baby Rita Jeffrey, the authorities were unable to take DNA samples from the mother of Lorraine Evans because she is currently hospitalized. Noting that it is a difficult time for the family and friends of the fire victims, Rihanna Jeffrey said those directly affected by the devastating fire are still processing the loss, but they remain thankful for the support they have been receiving.
So far, the process is very satisfying, I could say, because the government is doing his best. I mean, the president himself is doing as much as he can to at least bring this comfort and closure to the parents. So far that the ministers, I mean the government has the counselors and so forth on the ground counseling the parents that are constantly breaking of grief. So I really pleased with that and satisfied with it.
News source understands that the government has already initiated a process of providing counseling to the bereaved parents. The grieving woman said while the families demand justice, no amount of compensation will be able to bring back their loved ones.
It was very tragic. Yes, we would call for justice, but I don't think compensation is enough for a person, a living person, that I mean for a life to be replaced, because I'm not saying that the parents must not be given any financial support, right? But what I'm saying is that calling for compensation, all of this, it just look like you're selling your children.
And the family is also asking on members of the media to be sensitive to the situation.
I've been contacted by several media sources, and some of the media personnel are very professional, very sympathetic and so forth, but some are coming asking questions, and it seems like, you know, they are demanding for their answers to be answered. And at this grieving time, I don't think any parent is, I mean, mentally wise. They might not be very stable or in a righted mind, as we would usually say, to answer your questions.
19 children lost their lives in a Sunday night fire that ripped through the dorm at the Mahdia Secondary School. A Friendship East Coast Demerara family has been plunged into mourning with the death of their son, 23-year-old Joel Alexander, in a Monday afternoon accident involving a sand truck. A police report said Alexander was driving his motor car along the Suzdalk-Linden Highway when he overtook a car and ended up in the part of the sand truck that was being driven in the opposite direction. The truck driver, Rohit Prasad, said he pulled to the side of the roadway to avoid a head-on collision, but the two vehicles that were both being driven at a fast rate still collided. The driver of the car was taken out of the wreckage in an unconscious state with multiple injuries to his head and body. He was rushed to the Diamond Medical Center, where doctors pronounced him dead. A post-mortem examination is to be carried out on his body. The truck driver was administered with a breathalyzer test. The results found no trace of alcohol in his system. However, he was still taken into custody pending the outcome of the investigations, according to the police.
Hi, Mr. Smart. Please stop a minute and just clarify this thing for me.
Oh, Sunil, don't tell me it's local government questions again.
Yeah, boss. How come the local government elections different from the general elections?
Okay, the local government election systems allow for half of the members of the council to be elected through the proportional representation system, just like general elections. And the other half will be elected through the first past the post system. This system allows for one candidate to be elected to represent the constituency where he or she lives. For example, if a council got 30 seats, like the Georgetown municipality, 15 will be elected through the proportional representation system, and the other 15 will be elected through the first past the post system, giving a total of 30 councillors.
So that means that every constituency will have one of its citizens who live there having a seat and representing it at council.
Yes, Sunil, that's correct. And if you need to know anything else about the electoral system for local government elections, just call GCOM. Take care, Sunil.
All right.
Monday, June 12, 2023 is Local Government Elections Day. For further information, contact GCOM or visit the GCOM website at www.gcom.org.gy.
Food Max Supermarket, located on the ground floor of the Giftland Mall, is your one-stop shop for all your grocery needs. We stock a variety of imported frozen meat and food products, fresh produce, and pet supplies, freshly made bread. Rotisserie chicken and patties are also available daily. Shop in comfort today at Food Max and let our courteous staff assist you in satisfying your shopping needs. Food Max, the fresh food specialist.
It's one of your biggest goals, getting your own home, where memories are made, where happiness lives. You may feel that home ownership or renovation is beyond your reach, but we at Republic want you to know that there's always a way. Ask us about our suite of mortgages. Let's help make your housing wishes come true. Or advise on how the equity in your existing home can finance other dreams and goals. Call or go online to learn more.
Look who's in the mix now. The new Buster Soda Water. 0 calories, 0 sugar, 0 artificial flavors. 100% refreshing. Taste Buster Soda Water today. Buster Soda Water. Now available for only $120.
Fuel it up and drive, super 95. Tune up. Fuel it up and drive, super 95. Tune up. Protect your fuel system, boy. High mileage and performance, boy.
Guy Super 95 gasoline gives you more reasons to drive and is available at 56 service stations nationwide. For affordable price, high performance, and high mileage, choose Guy Super 95 gasoline.
Fuel it up and drive.
Across the region tonight, the Prime Minister of Jamaica, Andrew Holness, has declined his salary increase amid public backlash over the massive pay hikes for politicians that were announced last week. The Prime Minister's salary would have increased from $9.1 million to $22.3 million effective from the 1st of April. His salary will remain at its current level of $9.1 million. The Prime Minister said he had directed the Transformation Implementation Unit to remove the Prime Minister's compensation from the new salary scale. He said the Prime Minister's compensation will therefore remain at its previous level. He said, to be clear, no retroactive payments will apply to the Prime Minister's pay. Last Tuesday, the Minister of Finance and the Public Service, Dr. Nigel Clark, announced the new salary scales for the Political Directorate under the Public Sector Compensation Review, which led to an uproar in several quarters as the increase surged past 200%. The Prime Minister said that the compensation review is the most objective evaluation that has been done of jobs in the public sector. The Trinidad and Tobago-based Caribbean Telecommunications Union says at least 9 Caribbean countries have signed the Port of Spain Commitment on Digital Integration, signaling a commitment to collective action in pursuit of sustainable digital transformation across the region. It said in addition to the 9 countries, 2 senior advisors with responsibility for digital transformation signed the agreement that marked the culmination of discussions that took place during the executive sessions on digital leadership in the Caribbean last week. The event was hosted by Trinidad and Tobago government in partnership with the Inter-American Development Bank and the CTU, and reaffirmed the priority to be placed on advancing digital transformation to support social and economic growth in the Caribbean region. And finally tonight, international news. Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau has backed the Special Rapporteur's recommendation to hold public hearings into foreign meddling in elections. On Tuesday, the government-appointed rapporteur stopped short from recommending a formal public inquiry. The advice is in response to claims that China attempted to interfere in Canada's last 2 federal elections. Mr. Trudeau has faced pressure to launch a public probe, and opposition legislators condemned the decision. The Prime Minister appointed David Johnston, Canada's former Governor-General, back in March as the Special Rapporteur to investigate the interference allegations, which have since been denied by China. At a news conference today, Mr. Johnston said that foreign governments are undoubtedly attempting to influence candidates in Canada. However, he said a public inquiry would not be possible due to the sensitivity of the intelligence involved. And that's your News Source Evening Bulletin for tonight. I'm Gordon Mosley reporting. and encouraging you to stay safe.